Hey everyone, Combo here, back with another Empires and Puzzles video, and today we are going to talk about who I believe to be the top 15 legendary dark heroes in the game right now. Close to a year ago, I put out the top 10 list of all 5 colors of legendary heroes, and it is time to update that list. A lot of you have been putting in comments of my videos to put out new ranking videos, so here we are. I was going to do top 10, but there are just so many good heroes in the game right now that I felt like I needed to do a top 15. And I mention in every type of ranking video like this that just because I don't have a specific hero that you have on your roster that you use all the time and that you think is a very good hero does not mean that they are not a great hero. The heroes that I'm going to talk about in this video today are the ones that I just believe to be the most impactful, but if you feel like I left somebody off the list that should be in this top 15 or even higher in the top 5, definitely let me know in the comments. Now is the time to stand up for your heroes. And before we get into my list, if you do enjoy this video or find it helpful, hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed to my channel, and turn that notification bell on so you can be alerted of when I drop new content. And if you really love my videos, consider supporting the channel by becoming a member. If you click the join button next to where it says subscribed, you can find out information on the perks of becoming a member, including some cool avatars, early access to videos like this, one-on-one hero advice from me on the Line app, and some other cool stuff as well. All right, let's jump right into this. At number 15, I've got Hreidmar, and Hreidmar was somebody that I wanted to have higher up on this list. I feel like I'm going to say that a few times throughout this video, but there's just so many good dark heroes in the game. He is from the Nidavellir realm or the Untold Tales 2 family. He is slow mana speed, class is wizard, ether power is counterattack, and where he would be most useful is in wars and in raids. I do sometimes see Hreidmar at the tank position if we're going up against alliances that have purple tanks. He can be very annoying because he is a big damage dealer, has that Molten Core passive, which we'll go over in a moment, and then he has some mana control aspects as well. So he's got 2 passives. The first is Empowered Resist Burn, so he has innate resistance against burn and actually gains 450 boosted health and 5% mana each time they resist. And then they have the Molten Core passive. The Molten Core activates each time the character's special skill is cast. All enemies receive Corrosive Burn for 3 turns. With a fully charged Molten Core, the Corrosive Burn deals 308 damage and lowers the target's defense by minus 12% each turn, deals extra damage against heroes with minions or a mega minion, and the burn damage is scaled by the amount of charge in the core. All charge is exhausted when the core is activated. The core charges each time the character receives damage from normal attacks or from special skills. So I generally recommend, if you are going to have Hreidmar or any of the other Untold Tales 2 heroes on your offensive team, you would want to put them in the middle. That way they have a higher chance to get hit by some of those attack 3 specials. And then when they do go off, then that Molten Core will have a higher percentage. Obviously, it's going to be a slim chance or a low chance that it's going to make a difference, but if you put them in the middle each time, then you'll have a higher percentage chance over time to eventually do more damage from that Molten Core. I do find that the Molten Core is a lot harder to charge when you are on offense rather than when one of these heroes is on defense, especially at the tank position. And that 308 burn damage that I mentioned, that does scale up. That's just with Hreidmar's base stats. So as Hreidmar gets double limit broken with emblems and the attack stat goes up, that burn damage does go up as well. I believe it actually goes well over 400 to 500. And for his special skill, the Dwarven King's Levy, he attacks all enemies with a Firestorm Strike, dealing up to 2200 damage, deals 40% more if the target is of the nature element. The attack never misses its targets. The caster steals generated mana of all enemies over 5 turns, starting low and increasing every turn until on the last turn all generated mana is stolen. This effect cannot be cleansed, but gets removed if the caster is defeated. At the end of each turn, steals the latest dispellable buff from all enemies and distributes them randomly among allies for 5 turns. So Hreidmar does a lot when you consider the damage, stealing mana, stealing buffs, and then the Molten Core also. Definitely a very good hero, and if he wasn't slow mana speed, he definitely would have been higher on my list. Coming in at number 14, I've got Toon Sartana. Some people like the Toon version better, some people like the glass version. Personally, I think Toons are more useful all around. around. She is part of the classic family, of course, fast mana speed, wizard class, ether power is dodge, and where she would be useful is also in wars and raids. She is an extremely good sniper, deals 530% damage to the target. The target receives 762 poison damage over 3 turns, deals extra damage against holy. And I've mentioned in videos before, but these preview cards that I'm going to show you throughout this video, these are the max preview stats from the game as if you were to have followed the talent path all the way to the left. That does include the attack masterclass emblems as well. So for any of these cards, if you wanted to get their defense higher, you definitely could. I wouldn't recommend that necessarily for somebody like Sartana, who is an offensive hero. Obviously, you'd want that attack stat to be as high as possible. The Toon version of Sartana, of course, also has the 75% chance to resist instant mana reductions, any ailments, and any buff dispels as well. And her superior master class wizard talent is extremely useful when dealing damage through normal attacks and special skills. There is a plus 50% chance to deal plus 15% extra damage per each active buff. Before dealing the extra damage, the following effects are also activated. Dispels all active buffs from the target before the damage is dealt. The amount of times that just with regular tile damage that I'm able to dispel buffs with Toon Sartana is extremely high, and that goes for any other Season 1 wizard class hero also. Moving on to number 13, I've got costumed Diaochan. She is part of the War of Three Kingdoms family. Mana speed is fast, class is cleric, ether power is defense up, and where she is useful is in wars and raids as well. She of course has the unstoppable minions passive, where she has resistance against minion removal, cannot be prevented from receiving minions, and the minion attack and abilities cannot be disabled. For her special, the Lady's Flowers, she recovers 33% health for all allies, summons a lackey minion for the caster and nearby allies with 33% health and 33% attack. Each time a lackey minion hits an enemy, it steals a random dispellable buff from the enemy and gives it to its owner. I have 2 of costume Diaochan maxed and double limit broken on my roster, and I use at least one of them every single war, but I usually use both of them every single war. I love fast speed healers that can get their specials in just 7 tiles, and I love the fact that she's got those beefy minions. I usually try to put her with a weaker, good support hero, so somebody like Oniwakumaru, who might have lesser stats than some other heroes. That way I can kind of shield him with the minions from Diaochan. Or if I'm using Lord Loki, then I might want to put Diaochan with him because his stats are also pretty low. I feel like her costume came out quite a while ago, definitely over a year ago, but she is still very, very usable in wars in my opinion. Moving on to number 12, this might surprise some people that I still have him ranked in my top 15, but I've got Darkfeather from the Goblin family. He is average mana speed, druid class, defense up is his ether power. Where he's useful is in literally everything. Wars and raids, titans, events. He has a very unique special and obviously adds the growth effect. Any heroes that have growth or wither will definitely stand the test of time in this game. For his passive, he has the effects on special skills, so he has a 50% chance to perform the following actions when this character casts their special skill. Deals 90% damage to all enemies, and all enemies get minus 25% accuracy for 3 turns. Anyone who goes up against goblins or as goblins knows that's much higher than 50%. And for his actual special, the Eagle's Blessing, he will first recover 25% health for all allies, gives a growth effect where all allies get 180 attack and 180 defense, and then all allies have a 50% chance to deal 270% damage to a random enemy after any subsequent allied special skill is cast for 4 turns. And as most of you know, if you were to string 4 or 5 specials together in a row, that 50% chance to deal the 270% damage will activate every single time in that same turn. So if you are using Darkfeather, I highly recommend pairing him with other average speed purple heroes, at least a 4-1 setup or a 3-2 setup. If you like playing mono, then that's your thing. Then use 5 purples and try to have them all at average speed. That way you can use Darkfeather first and then the other specials right after it. Personally, I'm more of a fan of 4-1 or 3-2 when using a strategy like that. I'm not a big fan of mono personally in wars and raids, but he adds the ability to do a lot of damage when you string those specials together. He also has a pretty cool family bonus with the goblins. Each time this hero takes damage from an enemy special skill, depending if you have 1, 2, or 3 goblins on your team, he removes 50, 75, or 100% boosted health from all enemies. Moving on to number 11, we've got another healer here with Maisie from the Garrison Guard family. She is average mana speed, class is fighter, ether power is special armor, and where she's useful is also in wars and raids. She of course gets one of those starter mega minions at the beginning of the battle, depending if you have 1, 2, or 3 unique Garrison Guard family members. That recruit guard mega minion will start with either 20, 25, or 30% health and 100, 120, or 140% attack inherited from the caster. So it's not a big mega minion, not like her full one when her special goes off, but definitely makes a difference at the start of the battle. And I think Garrison Guards are probably going to be making a comeback with all of these Valiant vegetables giving fiends out from their passives, because these Garrison Guards, if you've got a mega minion, you'll be able to block those fiends from coming in. Maisie has a couple passive. The first one is cannot have her mana reduced, and then she's also got the Guard Rally, where every 4 turns it removes all wither effects from all allies, which is extremely useful, of course. And then for her special skill, Join in Joyful Song, first she boosts health of all allies by 800. Boosted health can exceed max HP. Boosts health for all allies by 160 for each status ailment the ally has, up to 800 health in total. Summons a Shield Guard mega minion with 65% health and 180% attack inherited from the caster. And then the Shield Guard mega minion safely cleanses the latest cleansable status ailment from all allies each turn. I am a big fan of heroes that have those mega minions that safely cleanse. I've got 2 of them on my roster leveled up with Kolya and Rosalind, and I love utilizing their mega minions for that. It's very useful in Equalizer War, of course. It's great against any of the Woodland Fawns that have those secondary effects, any of those other extra damage dealers when that goes away. Great against the silencers that are big in the game right now, like Ceres and Sung Jiang. Great for mindless attack. There's so many good uses for these mega minions that safely cleanse at the end of every turn. And remember, if you've got Maisie double limit broken, that mega minion is literally going to have like 2,700 health based on the health of her if you have a matching legendary troop. So it is pretty difficult to take down those mega minions. Moving on to number 10, we've got everybody's favorite Titan hero, Gastille. And if he isn't your favorite, it's probably because you don't have him, like me. I have tried so hard to get him so many times, and he just not has fallen in my lap, unfortunately. But he is, of course, part of the super elemental family. His mana speed is average. His class is barbarian. His ether power is attack up. And where he's useful is, of course, for Titans. He is a Titan god in this game. He is also useful for wars and raids, depending on the difficulty of enemies that you go up against in war, and then also for events if you want to try to increase your tile damage. I don't generally think he would be great if you're trying to place in events, because generally you want really good hard attack 3-hitters, and you want that boss stage at the end of the challenge event round or in towers. You want that to go as quickly as possible, and the way that you do that is by using specials, of course. And Gastille does not help increase the special skill damage, but some people may want to use him to try to make your tile damage better in those challenge events and tower events. I feel like a hero like Gastille could have literally been in the top 5 on this list if you really love fighting Titans, or he could have literally been left off this list if Titans don't really matter to you. But I felt like number 10 was a good spot for him for how useful he is compared to some of the other heroes that we're going to be talking about and their uses. And as far as why Gastille is so useful, for his special skill, Elemental Corruption, all allies get plus 150% normal damage for 4 turns. This effect can be active in addition to effects that alter attack in general. Normal attacks can have a total maximum of 200% increased power while this effect is active. And then he also makes it so that all damage all enemies receive is increased by plus 55% for 4 turns. The combination of those 2 factors really makes the tile damage skyrocket through the roof. Again, I do not have Gastille, but I've seen videos of people using Gastille, and it completely changes the game against Titans. Moving on to number 9, we've got one of my newer favorite heroes on my own roster, costumed Darkfeather. He is, of course, part of the villain family. He is fast mana speed. His class is sorcerer. His ether power is defense up, and where he's useful is in wars and raids. For his passive, he has the curse on special skill. When this character casts their special skill, all enemies receive 473 curse damage over 4 turns, starting low and increasing every turn. And that does escalate as you limit break, double limit break, and add emblems to him. So my version of Dark Lord, I've got him at 4.90 with just 20 emblems. I don't have enough Wizard Masterclass emblems, which is his main version. So I would need that to get him to be able to have Masterclass emblems. But my version of him at 4.90.20 makes it so that he adds 706 curse damage over 4 turns. So that does increase by quite a bit. And then for his special skill, the Pulsar Strike, he deals 560% damage to the target, reduces the duration of the target and nearby enemies' buffs by 2 turns. The duration reduction affects both dispellable and undispellable effects. If the duration of any effect is reduced to 0, the effect is considered as having expired naturally. So that will work on Gurick in that Slime Revive status because it does specifically state in his special that it works on undispellable effects. And then after that, the target and nearby enemies receive Corrosive Poison for 4 turns. The Corrosive Poison deals 285 poison damage and lowers the target's mana generation by minus 15% each turn, deals extra damage against heroes with minions or a mega minion, and that poison damage does scale up, of course, as well. My version of him has 424 poison damage each turn. And remember, that's 424 poison damage each turn, not 424 poison damage over 4 turns. So the combination of the curse damage and the poison damage definitely adds up. The poison damage is only for 3 enemies. The curse damage is for all enemies. So just something to keep in mind for that. But Dark Lord is an extremely good sniper that keeps on hitting after his turn is ended. Moving on to number 8, we've got somebody on my roster who has started to make a comeback because of Gurick. I've got Von Rothbart, part of the Secrets of the Opera family. His mana speed is average, his class is Sorcerer, his ether power is Special Boost, and where he's useful is in wars and raids as well. He has 2 passives. The first is Resist Defense Ailments. This character has innate resistance against status ailments that affect defense. Does not apply to status ailments that affect elemental defense though. And then he has the Heal when status ailment expires or is cleared. This character receives 10% health each time a status ailment expires or is cleansed, removed, or reallocated from them. This effect can activate only once per turn. And then for his special, the Ballad of Pain, he deals 550% damage to the target. The target dances to the Ballad of Pain for 4 turns. The dance spreads to nearby enemies. And what the Ballad of Pain does is the dancer gets silenced, and when the dance ends, the target suffers 1700 damage. When the target or any enemy gets the dance, all existing status effects will be removed when the dance status is added. Dance gives immunity to new status effects, and the new dance status effect will replace this effect if the other team happens to have another dancer, and the dance effect cannot be dispelled. The dancing effect does get removed if the caster is defeated though, so keep that in mind. So Von Rothbart's somebody you would probably want to have on one of the wings for that purpose. I gotta be honest about Von Rothbart, so I was not using him for a while because Astrid was literally on almost everybody's defense, and when there is a bard that has one of those passives where the dances only last for 1 turn, it definitely handicaps Von Rothbart. But with Gurick coming into play now as one of the meta, or not one of, he is the meta defensive tank in the game right now. And in Alliance Wars, or at least the alliances that we have been facing, we've been facing other revivers more frequently than Astrid. Her stats are a little bit outdated, so that could be why, but we've definitely been facing Chitrangada a lot. We face Sable a lot. There's another reviver that I can't think of at the top of my head right now, but we don't see Astrid nearly as often as we used to. So this is kind of making it so that Von Rothbart can be put back in play, in my opinion. His stats are still pretty decent. Again, these are the max preview stats if you took that talent path all the way to the left. I actually went the defensive and health path on my version of Von Rothbart a while ago when I leveled him up, and he's got 1641 shield, and I've got him at 2502 health. I don't have that 25th masterclass emblem. I've only got 24, so I could have his health a little bit higher. But definitely a great card, very useful. You do need to be careful, again, who you bring him up against. You don't want to bring him up against any bards that have that passive like I was talking about. And then who you target him against. You kind of need to be a little careful with that. I try not to target Gurick because he's a cleric class. I usually try to target one of the flanks, and then I like to have that silence or the dancing try to spread to Gurick because Gurick can block that with his cleric class. So just be aware of that. So if you attack a flank, then the next turn it would try to spread to the other wing and the tank, and if it doesn't hit Gurick, if he blocks it, then it will still hit the wing if they aren't the class that will block it. So at least 2 people will have the silencing or the dancing. Best case scenario, scenario, it hits Gulrik and then it spreads to everybody. Moving on to number 7, we've got Vard from the Astral Dwarves family. He is slow mana speed, class is sorcerer, ether power is bulwark, and where he's useful is in wars and raids, and then also for titans because of the wither effect that he gives. And one of the reasons I love Astral Dwarves so much is because of their family bonus and passives. So depending if you have 1 or 2 unique Astral Dwarves in your team, he will have a 25 or 50% chance to dispel a random dispellable effect buff from all enemies at the end of each turn. And then also, he has a 75 or 100% chance to resist mana reductions and mana status ailments. Each successful resist by this family gives the character 5% mana. So that is very good, not as good as the Woodland Fawns, who get, I think, 15% mana actually. But if you bring Vard or any other Astral Dwarves against the right opponents that give negative mana ailments or instant mana reductions, or even Moths who have the Moth Dust, that does count as a mana status ailment, you can get some very easy wins in wars if you're going up against teams that have 3 or 4 Moths. And if you bring Astral Dwarves and Woodland Fawns, then you're just going to continually gain mana every single turn when that Moth Dust gets attempted on them. And obviously they're not going to get the Moth Dust. He also has a couple other passives. The first is Superior Bypass Minions. All damage done by this character bypasses minions and mega minions. And then he has the Superior Resist Negative Minion effects. This character has innate resistance against incoming negative effects and damage from minions and mega minions. So he cannot get any damage from minions or mega minions, which is awesome. And then he has the perfect accuracy passive as well. This character's special skill never misses its targets. And then for his actual special skill, Power of the Void, he deals 470% damage to all enemies, gives a wither effect where all enemies get minus 350 attack and minus 350 defense, and all enemies get minus 35% mana generation for 5 turns. So Vard does an extreme amount with his family bonus, with his passives, and with his special. Obviously, you want to try to bring him up against teams that do not have any of those garrison guards that have the guard rally that removes wither effects, but Vard is an extremely useful hero. Moving on to number 6, we've got Tamlin from the Woodland Fawn family. He is slow mana speed, class is sorcerer, ether power is regen, and where he's useful is also in wars and raids. I feel like we have a lot of sorcerers on this list actually. But first, let's talk about his family bonus with the Woodland Fawn. So depending if you have 1 or 2 unique fawns on your team, you'll have a 75 or 100% chance to resist mana reductions and mana status ailments. Each successful resist by this family gives this character 15% mana. He also has plus 50 or 100% more damage dealt against minions and mega minions, depending if you have 1 or 2 unique fawns on your team. And then for his other passives, he has the resist insanity passive, so he can never get insanity. Has the mana on status ailment received. This character gains 5% mana when they receive a status ailment or a negative stack. And then he's also got the resist attack reduction, where he has innate resistance against status ailments, stacks, and wither effects that affect attack. And then for his actual special, the disquieting Toon, he deals 460% damage to all enemies. Enhanced defense ailment. All enemies get minus 64% defense against special skills. This effect lasts until the enemy takes damage from a special skill 6 times. And then when the enhanced defense ailment ends or is removed, the enemy gets silenced for 6 turns. Getting silenced for 6 turns is like a lifetime. And if you're going up against any teams that have any kind of family bonus or passive like the Beowulf family does that cleanses when they are hit, or they have a 75 or 100% chance depending on how many they have. But if that first part gets cleansed, then they instantly get silenced. So that's pretty cool. Tamlin is an extremely useful hero, and I know he's slow mana speed, but because of this 15% mana that he gains when he resists negative mana elements or instant mana reduction or moth dust, he really acts like an actual average or even fast speed hero depending on who you're going up against. I've been using strategies in wars lately with trying to bring 2 dwarves and 2 fawns and 1 toon against teams that have 3 moths or more in wars, and my fawns and dwarves have been gaining mana so quickly in these matches. Hard hitter, love Tamlin. All right, we are moving on to the top 5, and at number 5, I've got Dularfulr from the Nidavellir realm or Untold Tales 2 family. She is fast mana speed, class is cleric, special armor is her ether power, and where she's useful is in wars and raids as well. I remember when Dularfulr first came out and it looked like the most trash card in the game, and we were like, what is Empires and Puzzles giving us? But then they gave her a buff, and I literally think it was just adding the 30% heal, but that that on top of the rest of her special and the Molten Core, which we didn't really know too much about yet either, definitely makes her an extremely useful healer in the game right now. Can definitely be very annoying to go up against if you don't realize that you really need to kill her with tile damage or try to dispel the effects from her special. I mentioned earlier the Molten Core passive with Hreidmar. It's the same exact thing, so I'm not going to repeat that, but for her special, the Knight's Whisper, she recovers 30% health for all allies. All allies get a Firestorm ward for 4 turns that reduces incoming special skill damage by up to 1300, reduces damage by an additional 30% when the attacker is of the nature element, and all allies are immune to new status ailments for 4 turns. The combination of the heal, the ward, and being immune to new status ailments for 4 turns is an extremely useful thing for both offense and defense. I've seen Dularfulr at the tank position. I've seen her very useful at the flank. I know 30% heal doesn't sound like a lot, but she's fast mana speed, and then the Molten Core on top of the defensive attributes that she has definitely makes her an extremely useful support hero in the game. Moving on to number 4, we've got Mortewitch from the Moth family. She is slow mana speed, class is sorcerer, another sorcerer here. Her ether power is defense up, and where she's useful is in wars, raids, and titans. All right, so let's talk about the Moth family passive or family bonus with the Moth Dust. So depending if you have 1, 2, or 3 unique moths on your team, at the start of each turn, casts Moth Dust to a random enemy for 2, 3, or 4 turns. The Moth Dust has the following effects: minus 30% mana generation, Mega Minion's current health is reduced by 50% each turn, and if the Moth Dust is cleansed or removed, the target falls asleep and receives plus 80% increased damage while sleeping. So we just talked about dwarves and fawns quite a bit with a few heroes with Vard and Tamlin. So obviously you do not want to bring Mortewitch against teams that have a lot of either dwarves or fawns on the defense, and a good way to try to counter moths attacking you is by having at least 2 dwarves or 2 fawns or 2 and 2, depending on what your roster looks like. But Mortewitch is still an extremely useful hero, and for her special, she has the Hungering Grave. She first deals 800% damage to the target. The attack bypasses defensive buffs, including counterattacks, heals all allies for 40% of the damage dealt, summons a Grave Mothling Mega Fiend for the target. The Fiend damages the enemy with 270% attack every turn. The Grave Mothling Mega Fiend absorbs healing and disappears when it has absorbed health equal to 80% of its owner's max health. When summoned, the Grave Mothling Mega Fiend increases the damage dealt to its target from all sources by plus 50%. This effect lasts as long as the owner has the Mega Fiend. Mortewitch has the ability to completely turn around a battle because of that Mega Fiend and the high damage at 800% before the Mega Fiend even hits. So chances are, if you hit somebody with Mortewitch, they're going to be dead within a turn or 2 if they aren't already dead from that 800% damage. She also has the dodge special damage passive, where she has a 15% chance to dodge special skills that deal damage. That's just part of her passive. And also something interesting to note, the way the mechanic of her special works against Guru or any other slime hero. Obviously, the 800% damage is going to take away more than 25% of the slime hero's health, which means they get a Mega Minion with 50% health or 51% health or something like that. But the way the sequence of Mortewitch's special goes is she deals that 800% damage to the target. The slime hero would then get a Mega Minion, and then she casts the Mega Fiend on the slime hero, which would then replace the Mega Minion. So if you have not figured that out yet, and if you have Mortewitch, that's something that you may want to start utilizing because it is extremely useful. But Mortewitch is very good for Titans also. I bring her against every yellow Titan because of that plus 50% extra damage. Great hero and very fun to use. Moving on to number 3, we've got Gongoth from the Astral Dwarves family. He is fast mana speed, class is Barbarian, ether power is special boost, and where he is useful is wars, raids, and events. A few heroes ago, we talked about the family bonus and passives for Vard. Obviously, Gongoth is going to have those same exact attributes where he can gain mana on any attempts of instant mana reduction, negative mana elements, or the Moth Dust from the Moth family. So definitely very useful for that. He's got the same passives with the resist negative minion effects, the perfect accuracy, and then also the bypass minions as part of his special. special. And then for his actual special, the Twilight Star Strike, he deals 400% damage to the target and nearby enemies, gives a wither effect where the target and nearby enemies get minus 350 attack, and then the target and nearby enemies receive plus 25% increased damage for 3 turns. The effect is increased by plus 10% for each minion or mega minion owned by all enemies, up to plus 85% in total. So if you bring Gongoth against the right enemies, they could literally have plus 85% extra damage for 3 turns. If you can't kill those 3 enemies in 3 turns with plus 85% extra damage, then I don't know what to tell you. I do love wither effect heroes. I do wish he had a defensive wither option, but obviously the minus 350 attack wither is going to make it very difficult for enemies to do any damage against you. I love the fact that he's fast mana speed, that he gains mana because of negative mana ailments or instant mana reduction, so he's going to be able to go off pretty quickly. Moving on to number 2, I've got a hero that has been around for I don't know how long. I feel like her costume came out like a year ago. Costume Medea from the Nightmares of Atlantis family. Extremely useful hero. Her mana speed is Changing Tides, class is Fighter, Ether Power is Special Boost. Uses would be Wars and Raids, and then also in events because she's a hard attack 3-hitter. She has 2 passives. The first is Resist Insanity, so she has innate resistance against insanity, only with her costume though. And then she has the effects on special skill passive, has a 50% chance to perform the following actions when this character casts their special skill. Deals 80% damage to all enemies, and the caster gets plus 19% mana generation for 2 turns. And then for her special skill with the Changing Tide, she has 2 different charges. You have to use the first one first, and that comes in at 7 tiles. And then the second charge really depends on the troops that you have. It could be 9 tiles. I feel like it's usually around that. And then obviously if she has that plus 19% mana generation, that's going to be a factor. But the first charge deals 355% damage to the target and nearby enemies. The target automatically casts Shifting Mindless Attack on a random ally when mana is full at the start of a turn for 3 turns. When this effect is triggered, it shifts to the hit ally and the duration is refreshed. The target and nearby enemies get minus 45% decrease for any healing for 3 turns. And then for the second charge, it's pretty much the same thing, except the damage is increased to 450% damage to all 3 enemies. The Shifting Mindless Attack is 4 turns instead of 3 turns, and then the reduced healing is minus 85% for 4 turns instead of minus 45% for 3 turns with that first charge. So she gets her first charge in 7 tiles. The fact that she can potentially contain a tank in just those 7 tiles is extremely useful. She's one of the few 5-star heroes that I have on my roster that I actually maxed 2 of them. I have one of her at level 90 and one of her at level 85. I use both of them every single war. They are both extremely useful. Sometimes I even bring both of them to the same battle. I love getting them off both at the same time. And usually if Gurik blocks the Shifting Mindless Attack with his cleric class the first time, I'm usually able to hit him with this second one. But I love Medea. She has great stats with the Untold Tales 1 costume bonus. She's a great hero. Definitely will stand the test of time because of the Shifting Mindless Attack, the strong attack. She has really good stats. As you can see, she's got almost 1900 attack. Actually, I just pulled up my version of her and she has 1906 attack. There must have been 1 attack emblem in this preview that got missed in the top part of the talent path. But yeah, she's got 1906 attack, and then the reduced healing, definitely an extremely useful hero. And then moving on to number 1, probably no surprise to anybody at this point, we've got Elsbeth from the Valiant Vegetable family, which are taking over the game right now. She has fast mana speed, class is Paladin, Ether Power is Knight's Endurance, and where she's useful is in Wars and Raids. And if you have not had the pleasure of going up against one of these Valiant Vegetables yet, why they are so annoying, first of all, is their family bonus or passive rather, and with that passive, the Seedling Summoner. So every turn, she's going to summon a Seedling Fiend to a random enemy. The Seedling Fiend evolves into a Sprout Fiend after 2 turns, and then the Sprout Fiend evolves into a Blossom Mega Fiend after 2 turns. The Fiend starts out with 15% health, and then it increases to 25% health, and then the Mega Fiend has 60% health. So those Fiends activate every single turn. It's just part of their passive. That's not even part of their special. They also have the Empowered Resist special skill blocking, so this character is immune to status ailments that prevent the use of special skills. They also gain 450 boosted health and 5% mana each time they resist. And then for the actual special skill, Guard the Garden. First deals 600% damage to the target. If the target has fiends or mega fiends, deals 500% damage to a random enemy, summons a Seedling Fiend to each hit enemy, and then the same thing where that Seedling thing evolves into a Sprout Fiend after 2 turns, turns, which then evolves into a Mega Fiend after 2 turns. And then the caster and nearby allies get plus 44% defense and a further 10% increase every time they are hit during 3 turns, up to plus 94% defense. These Valiant Vegetables have been extremely annoying to go up against because of the Fiend passive that they have, and Elsbeth has a potential to do a lot of damage if those Fiends are not healed away. And those are the heroes that I believe to be the top 15 Dark Legendary heroes in the game right now. We did have 2 brand new Dark Legendary heroes that came out this week, and I do think that they both are good, but I can't really say how good because I haven't been able to test going up against them or using them. I don't have either of them, but Lemnis from the Astral Dwarfs family looks very good, especially if you can pair him with Gurik. And then the other new Dark hero is Sleposi, who is in the Contest of Elements portal, and he's also part of the Slime family. He's an interesting hero who actually increases mana by 30% for whoever are on the wings of your team, and also gives them a Mega Minion. So my kind of quick thought about Sleposi is if you can pair him with other slow speed heroes on the wings, he's an average speed hero, so you basically would get those slow speed heroes to activate in average speed mana. And if you have dark heroes on the ends, like say somebody like Mortewitch, then she basically turns into an average speed hero. Obviously I haven't tested this, but based on my experience with heroes like this, which would be somebody like Nautica, I've always used Nautica next to slow speed heroes, and I like to pair Nautica with Grimsteel actually, so that Grimsteel acts as an average speed hero instead of slow, but Sleposi seems like he would act like that. But anyway, let me know what you think of my top 15 list that I've got here, who I left off, who I ranked too high, too low. Now is the time to stand up for your heroes, and I will be putting out the top 15 holy heroes over the next week or so, and then after that, my top 10 or top 15 ice heroes, top 15 nature, and then finishing off the rotation with top 15 fire heroes. So definitely be on the lookout for those videos, and as I put out those videos, I will pin a comment with links to the other ones in the series. So if you're watching this video in a month or 2 or after that, then there should be a pinned comment with 4 links to the other 4 colors. But that is going to do it for today's video. I hope you did enjoy it or found it helpful. And if you did, hit that like button. Make sure you're subbed to my channel, and I'll catch you guys next time.